I always believed family was the most important thing in life. My father taught me that before he passed away 6 years ago, and my mother, Barbara, reinforced that lesson every day since. But sometimes, the most important lessons are the hardest to follow, especially when you find yourself caught in the crossfire between the two women you love most. Before I begin the story, I just ask one thing: like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's quick, free, and makes all the difference to me. Thank you. My name is David Wilson. I'm 43 years old, and I live in Albany, New York, with my wife Melanie and our son Tyler, who just turned 5. The last thing I wanted was to see my widowed mother and my wife at odds, but that's exactly where we find ourselves now. It all started 3 months ago when we were planning Tyler's birthday party. Winter was finally giving way to spring, and the yard of our 2-story suburban home was finally green enough to consider an outdoor party. Tyler was obsessed with dinosaurs. He knew all their names, slept with a plush Tyrannosaurus, and watched paleontology documentaries with a concentration I'd never seen in such a young child. "I want a T-Rex cake that roars," Tyler declared over breakfast one Sunday, while drawing yet another dinosaur in his notebook. Melanie, sitting across from me, sipping her coffee and checking her Instagram, gave me that look that said, "This is going to cost a fortune." "I'm sure we can find a bakery that can make that happen, champ," I said, ruffling his hair. But inside, I was already calculating the cost. Between the mortgage, Tyler's preschool, and Melanie's recent shopping sprees, our budget was stretched thin. I worked as an IT manager at a local insurance company, and while the salary was decent, Albany's cost of living wasn't getting any cheaper. That evening, after Tyler was in bed, I called my mother. Mom lived alone in the same 3-bedroom house where I grew up, about 20 minutes away. Since Dad died from a heart attack, she'd been keeping herself busy with her garden club, volunteer work at the local library, and spoiling her only grandchild. "David, darling." Her voice always brightened when I called. "How's my favorite boy? And Tyler and Melanie?" "We're all good, Mom. Actually, I was calling about Tyler's birthday. We're thinking of having a dinosaur-themed party in the backyard." "Oh, how wonderful. You know, you were obsessed with space when you were his age. Your father built you that cardboard rocket ship, remember?" I smiled at the memory. "Yeah, I do. Listen, Tyler wants a dinosaur cake, and I was wondering—" "Say no more," Mom interrupted, excitement filling her voice. "I'll make him the best dinosaur cake any 5-year-old has ever seen. I've been watching those baking shows, you know. I think I can manage a T-Rex." My stomach tightened. Mom was many things: loving, generous, supportive. But a master baker she was not. Her heart was always in the right place, but her culinary creations often fell short of her ambitions. Last Christmas, her gingerbread house had collapsed under the weight of too much frosting, and her Thanksgiving pumpkin pie had been memorable, to put it kindly. "Mom, that's really sweet, but—" "No buts. This is what grandmothers do. I've already got some ideas. I saw this tutorial online. It'll be my gift to Tyler." I should have been firmer. Should have told her that Melanie had already been researching professional bakeries. But I couldn't bring myself to disappoint her. Mom had been there for me through everything. My awkward teenage years, college applications, my first heartbreak, Dad's funeral. She'd moved mountains to ensure I had every opportunity in life. "That would be wonderful, Mom. Tyler will love it." When I hung up, Melanie was standing in the doorway, arms crossed. "Please tell me you didn't just agree to let your mother make Tyler's birthday cake." I sighed. "She really wants to do it, Mel. It means a lot to her." Melanie rolled her eyes. "David, this is Tyler's big day. Do you remember the Christmas gingerbread disaster? Or that cake she made for your birthday last year that tasted like sweetened cardboard? She's my mom, Mel. What was I supposed to say? How about, 'Thanks, but we've got it covered'?" Melanie walked to the kitchen counter and picked up her phone. "I've already found the perfect bakery. They can make a 3D T-Rex that looks like it could walk right off the cake board. Tyler would love it." "Can't we have both?" I suggested, knowing it was a weak compromise. "Mom's cake for family and the professional one for the party?" Melanie's expression softened slightly. "Fine. But when your mother's creation falls apart, don't say I didn't warn you." I nodded, relieved to avoid an argument, but the knot in my stomach only tightened. The weeks leading up to Tyler's birthday were a flurry of planning. Melanie threw herself into organizing the perfect party. Dinosaur decorations, a bounce house shaped like a volcano, party favors that included little archaeologist kits. Meanwhile, Mom called almost daily with updates on her cake progress. "I've been practicing, David. I made a test cake yesterday. The shape isn't quite right yet, but I'm getting there." I encouraged her, all while knowing that Melanie had already placed a deposit on a professional cake that cost more than my first car payment. 2 days before the party, Melanie approached me with another issue. "David, I need to talk to you about something." Her tone was serious, which immediately put me on edge. "What's up?" She sat beside me on the couch, biting her lip, a sign she was nervous. "You know how we've been a bit tight on money lately?" I nodded. "The party's been expensive, but it's worth it for Tyler. It's not just the party." She twisted her wedding ring, another nervous habit. "My credit card is, well, I've reached the limit." My heart sank. "Again?" "Mel, we talked about this." I know. But Tyler needed new clothes for spring, and I saw this designer dress on sale that would be perfect for the Gardener's charity gala next month. And then there were the decorations for the party." I ran my hand through my hair, trying to stay calm. "How much?" "About $8,000. I nearly choked. $8,000? Melanie, that's more than 2 months of mortgage payments." She had the decency to look ashamed. "I know it got out of hand, but I can return some things. And maybe your mom could help." "My mom? What are you talking about?" Melanie took a deep breath. "Your dad left her pretty well off, right? She's always talking about how she doesn't know what to do with the money. And she loves Tyler. Maybe she could help us out, just until we get back on our feet." I stared at her, incredulous. "You want me to ask my 72-year-old widowed mother for money because you maxed out your credit card on a designer dress?" "Don't put it like that," Melanie snapped. "It's not like she's hurting for money, and she's always saying she wants to help." She wasn't wrong about that part. Dad had been smart with his investments, and between his life insurance and their savings, Mom was comfortable. She'd even offered financial help several times in the past, which I'd always politely declined. I'd been raised to stand on my own 2 feet. "I don't know, Mel. Just think about it," she said, kissing my cheek before standing up. "We're family. Families help each other." The day before the party, Mom called, her voice brimming with pride. "The cake is finished, David. It's a masterpiece, if I do say so myself. Tyler is going to love it." I felt a mix of dread and affection. "I'm sure he will, Mom. Thanks for doing this. I'll bring it over tomorrow morning before the party starts. I want to help set up, too." After we hung up, I went to find Melanie, who was arranging dinosaur figurines on the dining room table. "Mom finished the cake," I said. "She's bringing it tomorrow morning." Melanie didn't look up. "The professional cake is being delivered at noon." "I know." I hesitated, then decided to bite the bullet. "Listen, about what you said yesterday, about asking Mom for help with the credit card." Now I had her full attention. "Have you decided?" I hadn't, not really. But our finances were in worse shape than Melanie realized. Between her spending and some unexpected medical bills from when Tyler had pneumonia last winter, our savings were nearly depleted. "I'll talk to her tomorrow, after the party," I said finally. "But Mel, this has to be the last time. We need to get our spending under control." Melanie's face lit up, and she hugged me. "You're the best, David. I promise I'll be more careful." The next morning, Mom arrived promptly at 9 a.m., carefully carrying a large cake box. "Let me help you with that," I said, rushing to take it from her. "Careful," she warned. It took me 3 days to get it right. We set the box on the kitchen counter, and with a flourish, Mom opened it. Inside was, well, it was definitely a cake. And if you squinted and used your imagination, it somewhat resembled a dinosaur. The green frosting was a bit uneven, and the legs looked more like lumpy tree trunks. But the love that went into it was undeniable. "Mom, it's... wow." I couldn't find the right words. "Do you think Tyler will like it?" Her eyes were so hopeful that it broke my heart. "He's going to love it," I assured her. And I meant it. Tyler adored his grandmother and would appreciate anything she made, regardless of how it looked. Mom beamed. "Where's Melanie? I want to show her too." "She's upstairs getting Tyler dressed. I'll go get them." I found Melanie in Tyler's room, helping him into his dinosaur-themed shirt. "Mom's here with the cake," I said quietly. Melanie's expression was skeptical. "How bad is it?" "It's unique, but please be kind. She worked really hard on it." She sighed. "Fine. Come on, Tyler, let's go see what Grandma brought." Tyler raced downstairs, his face lighting up when he saw his grandmother. "Grandma!" Mom enveloped him in a hug. "There's my favorite paleontologist. Happy birthday, sweetheart." "Did you bring me something?" Tyler asked, looking around excitedly. Mom laughed. "I certainly did. Come see." She led Tyler to the kitchen and showed him the cake. His reaction was everything I'd hoped for. Pure, unfiltered joy. "A dinosaur cake," he exclaimed, his eyes wide. "It's green like a T-Rex, And look at its big teeth. Mom looked triumphant. I made it just for you. And wait until you see inside. It's red velvet, your favorite. Tyler hugged her legs. Thank you, Grandma. It's the best cake ever. I glanced at Melanie, who was standing in the doorway, her expression unreadable. When our eyes met, she gave a small, tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. It's something, she murmured, just loud enough for me to hear. The rest of the morning was spent setting up for the party. Mom helped hang decorations and arrange the snack table, while Melanie coordinated with the bounce house delivery people and made last-minute calls to confirm attendance. At precisely noon, the doorbell rang. I froze, knowing exactly who it was. I'll get it, Melanie said quickly, heading for the door. Minutes later, she returned with a delivery person carrying a large box. Where would you like this, ma'am? The delivery person asked. On the dining room table, please, Melanie directed. Mom looked confused. What's that? I cleared my throat. Mom. Melanie ordered a cake too. For the party. Mom's face fell. But I made a cake. Yes, and it's lovely, Melanie said, in a tone that suggested otherwise. But we thought we might need a bigger one for all the guests. The delivery person set down the box and left. Melanie immediately opened it to reveal a stunning 3D T-Rex cake, professionally crafted with incredible detail, right down to the textured skin and fearsome teeth. Tyler, who had been playing nearby, spotted it and gasped. Wow! Another dinosaur cake! This one looks like it could eat me! He ran to the table, examining it from all angles, his excitement palpable. Mom stood silently, her hands clasped together, watching her grandson marvel at the professional creation that put her own loving efforts to shame. Tyler, I said gently, remember Grandma's cake? That one's special too. Uh-huh. He nodded absently, still captivated by the bakery masterpiece. I looked at Mom and saw the hurt in her eyes, though she was trying hard to hide it. The professional one is for the party, I explained lamely. Yours is just for family. Of course, she said softly. That makes sense. Melanie was arranging candles on the professional cake, clearly pleased with herself. The party starts in an hour. We should finish setting up. I wanted to say something to make Mom feel better, but the damage was done. She busied herself with straightening the napkins and cups, her movements a little slower than before. As guests began to arrive, mostly families from Tyler's preschool and a few of our neighbors, Mom put on a brave face, greeting everyone warmly and helping to serve drinks. But I noticed she kept glancing at her cake, sitting forgotten on the kitchen counter, while everyone oohed and awed over the professional creation in the dining room. The party was a success by all accounts. Tyler and his friends burned off energy in the bounce house, dug for fossils in the sandbox we'd set up, and devoured dinosaur-shaped sandwiches. When it came time to sing Happy Birthday, everyone gathered around the professional cake, its candles glowing. Tyler made his wish and blew out the candles to applause. As Melanie began cutting the cake, I looked around for Mom and spotted her standing at the edge of the crowd, a wistful smile on her face. I made my way to her side. You okay, Mom? She patted my arm. Of course, dear. The party is wonderful. Tyler is having such a good time. I'm sorry about the cake, I said quietly. We should have coordinated better. Don't worry about it. The important thing is that Tyler is happy. She nodded toward my son, who was gleefully accepting a slice of the professional cake, his face already smeared with frosting. That's all that matters. But I could see the hurt she was trying to hide, and it cut me deep. Mom had never been one to complain or make a fuss. She'd raised me largely on her own while Dad worked long hours at his accounting firm. She'd stretched every dollar, sewn Halloween costumes by hand, helped with school projects late into the night. And now, in her golden years, when she should be enjoying the fruits of her labor, she was being sidelined at her only grandchild's birthday party. I glanced at Melanie, laughing and chatting with the other parents, basking in the success of the party she'd orchestrated. Then back at Mom, quietly collecting discarded paper plates from unoccupied tables. The contrast couldn't have been starker, and a familiar guilt began to gnaw at me. The same guilt I'd felt ever since I'd chosen Melanie over my mother's concerns 6 years ago. Little did I know, this birthday party was just the beginning. The cake incident was merely the first crack in what would soon become a much larger fracture in our family. One that would force me to confront uncomfortable truths about loyalty, respect, and what it really means to put family first. The day after the party, our house looked like a dinosaur-themed tornado had torn through it. Deflated balloons hung limply from chairs, half-eaten snacks littered the tables, and the remnants of the professional cake sat on the dining room table. About a quarter of it left, its once perfect T-Rex now decapitated and partially devoured. Mom's cake, on the other hand, remained virtually untouched in the kitchen. She'd taken it out briefly during the party, cut a single slice for herself, and then quietly put it back. No one else had tried it. Not even Tyler, who had been too enchanted by the store-bought spectacle to remember his grandmother's offering. I found Melanie in the living room, scrolling through photos of the party on her phone while Tyler played with his new dinosaur toys on the floor. "The party was a huge success," she said, showing me a particularly good shot of Tyler in front of the bounce house. "Everyone said it was the best kids' party they'd been to all year." "It was great," I agreed, sitting beside her. "Tyler had a blast." "Worth every penny," she said, resting her head on my shoulder. "These are the moments he'll remember forever." I watched my son, completely absorbed in his imagination, making his new T-Rex figurines stomp across the carpet. "Speaking of pennies," I said quietly, "we still need to figure out that credit card situation." Melanie's body tensed slightly. "Right. Are you going to talk to your mom today?" I nodded. "I'll head over there after lunch." "Maybe I should come with you," she suggested. The thought made me uncomfortable. "I think it might be better if I go alone. You know, mother-son chat." Melanie frowned but didn't push it. "Fine. Just don't downplay how much we need, okay?" I felt a flash of irritation. "Mel, it's not like I'm asking for an allowance. This is a serious financial discussion." I know. She kissed my cheek. "I trust you. Just remember we need to cover the credit card and maybe have a little cushion." After lunch, I drove to Mom's house, rehearsing what I would say. The truth was, I was embarrassed. At 43, I shouldn't need to ask my elderly mother for money. Dad would have been disappointed. He'd always emphasized financial responsibility, teaching me to save, invest, and live within my means. Principles I'd apparently forgotten somewhere along the way. Mom's house was a modest but well-maintained colonial in an older neighborhood. The front yard was meticulously landscaped. Gardening had become her passion after Dad died. She opened the door before I could knock, as if she'd been watching for me. "David, what a nice surprise." She hugged me tightly. Come in. I just made some coffee." I followed her into the familiar kitchen, with its vintage floral wallpaper, and the same oak table where I'd done my homework as a kid. She poured coffee into Dad's old Syracuse University mug for me. She still kept his things around, little reminders of their 45 years together. "So, how's the post-party cleanup going?" she asked, sitting across from me. "Still in progress," I admitted. "Thanks again for all your help yesterday." "Of course." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Tyler seemed to have a wonderful time." "He did. He's still playing with all his new dinosaurs." A brief silence fell between us. Mom stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "I'm sorry about the cake situation," I said finally. "We should have communicated better." She waved a dismissive hand. "It's fine, David. The store-bought one was beautiful. Much better than my amateur attempt." "That's not true. Your cake was made with love. That's what matters." "Tell that to a 5-year-old, she said with a small laugh, but I could hear the hurt underneath. "Anyway, I brought the rest of it home. Mrs. Peterson next door was happy to take some." I fidgeted with my mug, trying to find the right words for what I needed to discuss next. Mom noticed. She always did. "Something on your mind, sweetheart?" I took a deep breath. "Actually, Mom, there is something I wanted to talk to you about." She waited patiently as I struggled to continue. "Melanie and I are, well, we're in a bit of a financial bind right now." Mom's expression shifted to concern. "What kind of bind?" "It's nothing serious," I said quickly. "Just a temporary cash flow issue. Melanie's credit card is maxed out, and with the party expenses and some medical bills from when Tyler was sick." "How much?" she asked directly. I hesitated. "About $8,000 on the credit card. But we don't need all of it," I added hastily. "Even a few thousand would help until my bonus comes through next quarter." Mom was quiet for a moment, considering. "Of course I want to help, David. You know that." Relief washed over me. "Thanks, Mom. I promise we'll pay you back." "I'm not concerned about that." She reached across the table and patted my hand. "But I am concerned about the pattern." "Pattern? This isn't the first time you've had financial difficulties since marrying Melanie." Her tone was gentle but direct. "Remember last year when your car needed repairs? And the Christmas before that?" I shifted uncomfortably. She wasn't wrong. We've had some unexpected expenses. Designer dresses and professional cakes aren't unexpected expenses, David. They're choices. I felt defensive suddenly. The cake was for Tyler, and Melanie needs to look good for work events. Her job at the real estate agency is all about appearance. Mom sighed. I understand. And I'm not trying to criticize your wife. I just worry about you. Your father and I didn't save all these years so that you could live beyond your means. It's not like that, I protested, though part of me knew she was right. Here's what I propose, Mom said after a moment. I'll help with the credit card debt, but instead of giving you cash, I'll add Melanie as an authorized user on my credit card. I blinked, surprised. You would do that? With a condition, she continued. The card is strictly for emergencies and necessities. Groceries, medicine, things for Tyler, not for designer clothes or extravagant parties. And I want to see the statements each month. It seemed reasonable, though I wasn't sure how Melanie would take it. That's very generous, Mom. Thank you. Family helps family, she said simply. But help doesn't mean enabling bad habits. I nodded, accepting her terms. We spent another hour talking about less fraught topics: Tyler's progress in preschool, Mom's garden club, the new neighbors who had moved in across her street. By the time I left, the awkwardness had mostly dissipated, and I felt grateful for her understanding, if a bit childish for needing her rescue. When I got home, Melanie was waiting expectantly. Well? She asked as soon as I walked through the door. What did she say? I set my keys down. She agreed to help. Melanie's face lit up. That's fantastic. How much? Actually, she suggested something different. She's going to add you as an authorized user on her credit card. Her smile faltered. Her credit card? I don't understand. It's for emergencies and necessities, I explained. Groceries, things for Tyler, that sort of stuff. She wants to see the statements each month. So she's going to monitor my spending? Melanie's voice had an edge to it now. Like I'm some irresponsible teenager? Mel, she's doing us a huge favor. We're in a tight spot, and she's helping us out. By treating me like a child? No thanks. She folded her arms across her chest. I'd rather deal with the debt ourselves. I ran a hand through my hair, frustrated. And how do you propose we do that? Our savings are nearly gone. My salary barely covers the mortgage and Tyler's preschool. We need help, Mel. She was quiet for a moment, then her shoulders slumped slightly. Fine, but I don't like it. It's temporary, I assured her. Just until we get back on our feet. The next week, Mom's credit card arrived in the mail for Melanie. She took it with obvious reluctance. Remember, I cautioned. Just necessities. I know, she muttered. Your mother made that perfectly clear. For the first month, things went relatively smoothly. Melanie used the card for groceries and a few items for Tyler. The statement came, Mom reviewed it without comment, and I started to think maybe this arrangement would work out after all. Then came the second month. I was at work when my phone rang, Mom's number flashing on the screen. Hi, Mom, I answered, stepping away from my desk for privacy. David. Her voice was tense. Have you seen this month's credit card statement? My stomach dropped. No, why? There are charges here for over $3,000. A place called Nordstrom, another called Sephora, and something called the Spa at Saratoga. I closed my eyes, a headache starting to form behind my temples. I'll talk to Melanie. This isn't what we agreed to, David. I was very clear about the terms. I know, Mom. I'm sorry. I'll handle it. I've already called the credit card company. I've removed Melanie as an authorized user. My eyes flew open. You what? I'm sorry, but I had to. This is my financial security we're talking about. I can't have someone spending thousands of dollars without my permission. Mom, you should have talked to me first. I'm talking to you now, she said firmly. I love you and Tyler very much, but I won't be taken advantage of. After we hung up, I sat at my desk, staring blankly at my computer screen. I was angry. At Melanie for abusing Mom's trust, at Mom for acting unilaterally, and at myself for putting all of us in this position. That evening, I confronted Melanie as soon as I got home. Tyler was at a playdate, giving us privacy for what I knew would be an unpleasant conversation. Mom called me today about the credit card, I said without preamble. Melanie was folding laundry on the couch. She didn't look up. And? $3,000, Mel? Seriously? We agreed it was for necessities only. Don't start, David, she warned. I've had a long day. So have I countered. Especially after being blindsided by my mother telling me she's canceled your card because you spent $3,000 on clothes and spa treatments. Now she looked up, her expression defiant. Those were necessities. I have the charity gala this weekend, and I needed to look presentable. It's for work, David. A spa day is for work? I was incredulous. Networking happens at the spa. All the real estate agents go. It's how deals get made. She tossed a towel into the folded pile with more force than necessary. Your mother wouldn't understand that. She's never had to work in a competitive industry. I laughed humorlessly. Are you kidding me? Mom worked 2 jobs after I was born so that Dad could finish his accounting degree. She knows more about hard work than most people. That was different, Melanie dismissed. Times have changed. Image is everything in my business. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Regardless, you broke our agreement. Mom trusted us. Trusted you. And now that trust is gone. Oh, please, Melanie rolled her eyes. She was looking for an excuse to cut me off. She's never liked me. That's not true, I protested, though a small voice in the back of my mind wondered if there was some truth to it. Mom had always been polite to Melanie, but there had been reservations from the beginning. She thought we'd gotten engaged too quickly, that Melanie was too focused on material things. I dismissed her concerns as generational differences. It is true, Melanie insisted. She thinks I'm not good enough for her precious son. Never have been. Never will be. This isn't about that. It's about respect. Mom was helping us out and you took advantage. Fine. Melanie threw up her hands. I'm the villain. Your mother is a saint. Is that what you want to hear? I want you to acknowledge that what you did was wrong, I said, my patience wearing thin. What I did wrong was marry into a family where I'll always be second place to your mother, she snapped. I stared at her, hurt and angry. That's not fair, isn't it? Every time we disagree, you take her side. The birthday cake, now this. It's always Barbara knows best. That's ridiculous. I've supported you in plenty of... The sound of the doorbell interrupted our argument. I glanced at my watch. It was Tyler's playdate mother bringing him home. We'll finish this later, I said, heading for the door. But we didn't finish it later. We both retreated to our corners, the tension lingering in the house like a bad smell. Tyler, sensitive as always to the atmosphere, was quieter than usual at dinner, pushing his food around his plate and asking to be excused early. Later that night, after Tyler was asleep, Melanie approached me in the home office where I was trying to distract myself with work emails. I'm sorry, she said, leaning against the doorframe. I shouldn't have spent so much on the card. I got carried away. I looked up from my laptop. Her apology seemed genuine, and I felt some of my anger dissipate. I appreciate that, but I'm not the one you need to apologize to. She tensed immediately. You want me to apologize to your mother? She did us a huge favor, Mel. And yes, I think an apology would be appropriate. I'll think about it, she said, which we both knew meant not a chance. The next day was Saturday, and as had become our tradition, we were expected at Mom's house for dinner. These weekly family dinners had started after Dad died, Mom's way of keeping the family connected. Usually they were pleasant affairs, with Mom cooking her famous pot roast or lasagna, and Tyler entertaining us with stories from preschool. But as we drove to her house that evening, the atmosphere in the car was thick with tension. Melanie had barely spoken all day, and Tyler, picking up on the discord, was unusually subdued in the back seat. Be nice, I murmured to Melanie as we pulled into Mom's driveway. She gave me a look that could have frozen lava. I'm always nice. Mom greeted us at the door with her usual warmth, though I noticed she was careful to hug Melanie with slightly less enthusiasm than normal. Tyler, at least, received the full grandmotherly treatment, complete with cookies that had been baked that afternoon. Dinner started off awkwardly, but civil. Mom had made her signature lasagna, Tyler's favorite, and conversation revolved mostly around safe topics like the changing spring weather and Tyler's upcoming school field trip to the zoo. It wasn't until dessert that things went sideways. Mom had brought out an apple pie, store-bought, I noted with a pang of sadness. She usually made her own. When Melanie's phone buzzed with a text message. Sorry, she said, checking it quickly. It's work. A client is interested in that property on Lark Street. Mom set down her fork. You know, in my day we didn't bring phones to the dinner table. It was a mild rebuke, but Melanie bristled visibly. In your day, people didn't need to be available 24/7 to make a living. I'm sure your client can wait until after dinner, Mom replied, her tone still light but with an underlying firmness. Melanie put her phone away, but her jaw was tight. Some of us still have careers to manage. We can't all be retired. I shot her a warning look, which she ignored. Speaking of managing things, Mom said, serving Tyler another slice of pie. I've been meaning to ask how you're handling the credit card situation. And there it was. The elephant in the room, finally acknowledged. We're fine, I said quickly. Let's not discuss this now. Actually, I think we should, Melanie countered, setting down her fork with a clatter. Since your mother brought it up. Mom looked between us, seemingly surprised by the sudden tension. I only meant— I know exactly what you meant, Melanie interrupted. You want to remind everyone at the table that I can't be trusted with a credit card, that I'm irresponsible and frivolous. That's not what I said, Mom replied, her voice remaining calm. I simply asked how you were managing. By canceling the card without even talking to us first? That was your idea of managing the situation? Melanie, I warned, glancing at Tyler, who was watching the exchange with wide eyes. No, David. I'm tired of being treated like a child by your mother. Melanie turned back to Mom. You've never thought I was good enough for your son. Admit it. Mom's composure finally cracked. What I think, she said, her voice tight with controlled emotion, is that my son works very hard to provide for his family. And what I see is someone who doesn't appreciate that, who maxes out credit cards on designer clothes while he worries about making mortgage payments. Mom, please, I said, my heart racing. This was exactly what I'd feared. Oh, that's rich, Melanie laughed bitterly. The martyr mother-in-law routine. Well, let me tell you something, Barbara. Not all of us can sit around in an empty house all day living off our dead husband's money. The room went deadly silent. Even Tyler, at 5 years old, seemed to understand a line had been crossed. Mom's face had gone pale, her hands trembling slightly as she set down her napkin. Melanie! I was aghast. Apologize right now. But Melanie was on a roll, years of perceived slights finally boiling over. No, I won't apologize for speaking the truth. She sits in judgment of me, but what does she actually do? Nothing useful. Nothing at all. Mom stood up slowly, her dignity intact despite the vicious attack. Tyler, sweetheart, she said, her voice remarkably steady. Would you like to go see the new bird feeder in the backyard? The Cardinals have been visiting. Tyler looked uncertainly at his parents, then nodded and took his grandmother's outstretched hand. They left the dining room together, leaving Melanie and me in charged silence. What the hell was that? I demanded once they were out of earshot. Someone needed to say it, Melanie replied, though she had the grace to look slightly abashed. Say what? That my widowed mother, who just tried to help us out of a financial hole we dug ourselves, is useless? I was shaking with anger. How dare you speak to her that way in her own home? She provoked me by asking a simple question. Grow up, Melanie. Her eyes flashed. Whose side are you on? Right now? Not yours. I stood up. We're leaving. Get your purse. Fine by me, she muttered, pushing away from the table. I went to the backyard to find Mom and Tyler. They were standing by the bird feeder, Mom pointing out a bright red cardinal to my enraptured son. The sight of them together, her silver hair catching the evening light, his small hand in hers, made my throat tight with emotion. Mom, I said softly, we're going to head out. She turned, her expression composed, but her eyes sad. So soon? Yeah, it's been a long day. I couldn't meet her gaze. Tyler, say goodbye to Grandma. Tyler hugged her tightly. Bye, Grandma. Thanks for the cookies and pie. You're welcome, my sweet boy. She kissed the top of his head. I'll see you soon. As we walked to the car, where Melanie was already waiting in the passenger seat, Mom touched my arm. David, she said quietly, I'm sorry things got heated. That wasn't my intention. I know, Mom. I sighed heavily. I'm sorry for what Melanie said. It was completely out of line. It's all right. People say things they don't mean when they're upset. But we both knew Melanie had meant every word. And as I drove home in stony silence, Tyler falling asleep in the back seat, and Melanie staring pointedly out the window, I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted in our family dynamic. Something that might not easily be repaired. The week after the disastrous dinner at Mom's house was one of the most strained of my marriage. Melanie and I moved around each other like wary strangers, exchanging only the bare minimum of words necessary to coordinate Tyler's schedule and household logistics. At night, we slept with our backs to each other, the inches between us feeling like miles. I was still furious about what she'd said to my mother, and Melanie was equally indignant that I hadn't taken her side. It was our first major fight in years, and neither of us seemed to know how to bridge the widening gap. Tyler, perceptive as always, picked up on the tension. He became clingy and irritable, having tantrums over minor issues and waking up with nightmares. It broke my heart to see how our adult problems were affecting him. By Thursday, I'd had enough. After putting Tyler to bed, I found Melanie in the living room, scrolling through her phone as usual. We need to talk, I said, sitting on the opposite end of the couch. She didn't look up. About? This situation with my mother. It's affecting Tyler. That got her attention. She set her phone down. I know. I don't like it either. Good. Then we agree something needs to change. I took a deep breath. I think you should apologize to Mom. Her expression hardened immediately. I knew that's where this was going. Mel, you called her useless. You brought up Dad's death in the cruelest way possible. How would you feel if someone spoke to your mother that way? My mother wouldn't try to control my spending or undermine me at every turn, she countered. Mom wasn't trying to control you. She was trying to help us, help you, after you maxed out our credit card. And she had every right to be upset when you abused her trust. Melanie was quiet for a moment, picking at a loose thread on the couch cushion. Fine. I shouldn't have said what I did about your father. That was a low blow. It wasn't a full apology, but it was something. Thank you for acknowledging that. But I'm not going to grovel to her, David. She looks down on me. She always has. I sighed, frustrated. That's not true. She's always been supportive of us. Of you, maybe. Not us. Melanie looked up at me, her expression suddenly vulnerable. Do you know what it's like to always feel measured and found wanting? To know that no matter what I do, I'll never be good enough for the precious Wilson family? Mel, I moved closer to her on the couch. That's not how Mom sees you, isn't it? She criticizes everything. How I dress, how I parent, how I spend money. Nothing I do is ever right. I considered her words carefully. Had I been blind to tensions that had been building for years? I didn't realize you felt that way. Because you don't see it. You're her son, the golden boy who can do no wrong. She wiped away a tear that had escaped. I'm just the interloper who stole you away. My heart ached at her pain, even as I struggled to reconcile it with what I knew of my mother. Mom could be traditional and sometimes blunt, but deliberately hurtful. It didn't fit the woman who had raised me with such love and sacrifice. Let's take a step back, I suggested. Whatever the underlying issues are, we need to resolve this situation, for Tyler's sake, if nothing else. Melanie nodded reluctantly. What do you suggest? A truce. We go to Mom's this Sunday for dinner as usual. You apologize for what you said. She apologizes for how she handled the credit card situation, and we all agree to move forward. And if she doesn't apologize? She will, I said, more confidently than I felt. She loves Tyler too much to let this rift continue. Melanie considered this, then finally nodded. Okay. For Tyler. I called Mom the next morning from work, steeling myself for what might be an awkward conversation. To my relief, she answered warmly. David, how are you, sweetheart? I'm okay, Mom. Listen, about Sunday dinner. Oh, her voice cooled slightly. I wasn't sure if you'd be coming. We want to, all of us. But first, I think we need to clear the air about what happened last week. There was a pause. I agree. Melanie knows she was out of line with what she said. She's prepared to apologize. I hesitated, then pushed forward. And I think it would help if you could acknowledge that canceling the card without talking to us first was abrupt. Another pause, longer this time. I see. Mom, please. We need to move past this. Tyler's been having nightmares. He can sense the tension. She sighed softly. I never wanted to cause problems for Tyler. Or for you. I know that. We all want what's best for him. All right, she said finally. Sunday at 6 as usual. I'll make Tyler's favorite mac and cheese. I smiled, relieved. Thanks, Mom. We'll see you then. Sunday arrived with a mix of spring sunshine and scattered clouds, fitting weather for our uncertain family reconciliation. Tyler was excited to see his grandmother, chattering happily in the back seat about showing her his new dinosaur book. Melanie was more subdued, checking her appearance repeatedly in the visor mirror. You look fine, I assured her as we pulled into Mom's driveway. I just want to make a good impression, she muttered, smoothing her hair. It's just Sunday dinner, I reminded her. Not a job interview. Mom greeted us at the door, her smile slightly reserved but genuine. She hugged Tyler with her usual enthusiasm, then gave Melanie and me more restrained embraces. Come in. Come in. Dinner's almost ready. The first 20 minutes were filled with safe, superficial conversation as we settled in. Mom had indeed made Tyler's favorite mac and cheese, along with a garden salad and fresh rolls. The food was delicious as always, but the atmosphere remained strained, everyone choosing their words with careful deliberation. Finally, during a lull in the conversation, Melanie cleared her throat. Barbara, she began, setting down her fork. I want to apologize for what I said last week. It was completely uncalled for, especially the comment about your husband. I was upset, but that's no excuse. Mom's expression softened slightly. Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate that. I gave Mom an expectant look, hoping she'd offer her own olive branch. After a moment, she continued. And I'm sorry for how I handled the credit card situation. I should have spoken with both of you before taking action. Thank you, Melanie said, and I could see she was genuinely relieved by the mutual apology. Now that that's settled, Mom said, her tone lightening. Who wants dessert? I made apple crumble. The rest of the evening passed more comfortably. Tyler showed Mom his dinosaur book, and she listened with rapt attention as he explained the difference between a brachiosaurus and a diplodocus. Melanie even helped with the dishes without being asked, a small gesture that didn't go unnoticed by Mom. As we were preparing to leave, Mom pulled me aside while Melanie was helping Tyler with his jacket. David, I've been thinking, she said quietly, about what happened with the credit card. Mom, we don't need to revisit that. It's behind us. No, listen. I want to help, but in a way that works for everyone. She pressed an envelope into my hand. This is for you. Use it to pay off the credit card debt. No strings attached. I looked down at the envelope, stunned. Mom, we can't accept this. Yes, you can. It's a gift, not a loan. She squeezed my arm. I want Tyler to have a happy, stable home. If this helps relieve some of the financial pressure, then it's worth every penny. Tears pricked at my eyes. Even after everything that had happened, her first thought was still for her family's well-being. Thank you. This means more than you know. She nodded, then lowered her voice further. But David, this is a one-time thing. You and Melanie need to have a serious talk about finances. This pattern isn't sustainable. I know, I admitted. We will. On the drive home, I told Melanie about Mom's gift. She was as surprised as I was. That's incredibly generous, she said, turning the envelope over in her hands. Especially after everything that happened. That's Mom for you. Family comes first, always. Melanie was quiet for a moment. I feel terrible now for what I said. Don't. She's forgiven you. Let's just focus on moving forward. And for a while, it seemed like we had turned a corner. The check from Mom cleared our credit card debt, giving us a fresh start. Melanie and I had several long talks about our spending habits and created a budget that we both agreed to follow. Sunday dinners at Mom's resumed their normal rhythm, and the tension between Melanie and Mom, while not completely gone, had eased considerably. Then, about 3 weeks after our reconciliation, I came home from work to find Melanie practically bouncing with excitement. You'll never believe what happened today, she said, pulling me into the kitchen before I could even set down my briefcase. What is it? The Henderson property. You know, that massive colonial on Oak Street that I've been trying to sell for months? It's sold. Full asking price. That's fantastic. I gave her a hug. Congratulations. It gets better, she continued, her eyes shining. My commission is almost $30,000. This is the biggest sale I've made all year. Wow. I was genuinely impressed. Melanie was good at her job, but the real estate market had been slow lately. We should celebrate. Already planned, she said with a grin. I made reservations at Giovanni's for Saturday night. Your mother agreed to watch Tyler. I raised an eyebrow. You already talked to Mom about it? I called her right after the sale closed. She was really happy for me. Melanie looked pleased with herself. See? We're making progress. That's great, Mel. Really great. I was relieved to see the two most important women in my life finding common ground. That Saturday, we dropped Tyler off at Mom's house. He was excited for his sleepover with Grandma, already planning the cookies they would bake and the games they would play. Don't keep him up too late, Melanie cautioned as we prepared to leave. And remember, no sugar after 7. Mom nodded patiently. We'll be fine. You two enjoy your evening. Thanks for doing this, Mom, I said, giving her a quick hug. We won't be too late. Giovanni's was the nicest restaurant in Albany. White tablecloths, soft lighting, and prices that made my eyes water. But Melanie had earned this celebration, and it had been too long since we'd had a proper date night. To your success, I toasted, raising my glass of wine. And to our fresh start, she added, clinking her glass against mine. The evening was perfect. Delicious food, good wine, and conversation that had nothing to do with bills or family tensions. It felt like the early days of our relationship, before mortgages and preschool tuition had added layers of stress to our lives. I've been thinking, Melanie said as we were finishing dessert. With this commission, we could finally renovate the master bathroom. That shower has been leaking for months. I nodded. It was a sensible use of the money. That would be great. And we should put some into savings too. Of course, she agreed readily. But I was also thinking. Something in her tone made me wary. Yes? I saw this amazing bag at Nordstrom last week. A Chanel. It's an investment piece, really. Something I could use for client meetings and networking events. How much of an investment? I asked, trying to keep my tone light. She bit her lip. 6,000. I nearly choked on my coffee. $6,000? For a purse? It's not just a purse, David. It's a statement piece. In my industry, appearance matters. This bag says, I'm successful. Trust me with your $1 million property. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that this was supposed to be a celebration. Mel, we just got out of debt. Do you really think now is the time to spend that kind of money on a handbag? It's my commission, she said, a defensive edge creeping into her voice. I earned it. Yes, you did. And you should definitely treat yourself. But $6,000? You know what? Forget it. She set down her napkin. I shouldn't have brought it up. Let's just enjoy the rest of our evening. But the mood had shifted, and though we tried to recapture the earlier warmth, the drive home was tinged with disappointment on both sides. When we arrived at Mom's to pick up Tyler, we found him already asleep in the guest bedroom. Mom was in the living room reading with a cup of tea. How was he? Melanie asked, keeping her voice low. An angel, as always, Mom replied with a smile. We baked cookies, read his dinosaur book twice, and he taught me how to play some game on the iPad that I still don't quite understand. I laughed. That sounds about right. Thanks for watching him, Mom. Anytime. How was dinner? Wonderful, Melanie answered, her tone deliberately bright. The veal was exceptional. Mom seemed to sense the underlying tension but didn't comment. Well, Tyler's welcome to stay the night if you'd like. No sense in waking him now. Melanie and I exchanged a look. That's very kind of you, Melanie said. But we should probably get him home. He has soccer in the morning. Of course. Mom stood up. I'll help you get his things together. As Mom and Melanie collected Tyler's toys and overnight bag, I noticed a shopping bag from Macy's on the sideboard. Did you go shopping today, Mom? I asked, curious. Oh, just some spring cleaning supplies. And a little something for Tyler. She pulled out a small dinosaur figurine from the bag. I thought he might like to add it to his collection. I smiled. Mom was always thinking of ways to make Tyler happy. He'll love it. Thanks. Once Tyler was carefully transferred to our car, still sleeping soundly, we said our goodbyes to Mom and headed home. The ride was quiet, both of us lost in our own thoughts. When we pulled into our driveway, Melanie finally broke the silence. Your mother doesn't have any problem spending money on Tyler. I frowned, confused by the non sequitur. It was just a small dinosaur toy, Mel. It's not about the toy, it's the principle. She criticizes my spending, but she spoils Tyler constantly. That's what grandparents do, I said, trying to keep my voice down to avoid waking our son in the back seat. And she hardly spoils him. A $10 dinosaur is not spoiling. It's not just the dinosaur. It's the cookies, the books, the little trips to the zoo. She's buying his affection. I stared at her, incredulous. Are you serious right now? She's his grandmother. She loves him. And I'm his mother, Melanie said, her voice rising slightly. But somehow I'm the bad guy if I want nice things, while she gets to be the perfect grandma who never says no. I unbuckled my seatbelt, fighting to keep my temper in check. This is ridiculous. You're comparing apples and oranges. Mom buying an occasional treat for her only grandchild is not the same as you wanting to spend $6,000 on a handbag. There it is, Melanie said bitterly. Always defending her. Never me. I'm not. I stopped, noticing Tyler stirring in the back seat. Let's continue this inside. Once Tyler was settled in his bed, still miraculously asleep despite the transfer, Melanie and I faced off in our bedroom. I thought we were past this, I said, keeping my voice low. I thought we had an understanding about finances. We do, but this is different. This is my commission, David. Money that I earned through my hard work. Why shouldn't I be able to spend some of it on myself? Some of it, sure. But $6,000? That's more than 2 mortgage payments. She crossed her arms. So what would you consider a reasonable amount for me to spend on myself? $100? $200? Should I check with you and your mother first before I make any purchases? That's not fair, and you know it. I ran a hand through my hair in frustration. This isn't about permission. It's about responsibility. We have a child, a mortgage, and we just got out of debt thanks to my mother's generosity. Doesn't it make sense to be cautious? Don't throw your mother's generosity in my face, Melanie snapped. If she hadn't canceled the credit card without warning, we wouldn't have needed her help in the first place. If you hadn't maxed out the card on shopping sprees, she wouldn't have needed to cancel it, I countered. We glared at each other, at an impasse. Finally, Melanie shook her head. I'm going to bed. This is pointless. She disappeared into the bathroom, closing the door with a bit more force than necessary. I sat on the edge of the bed, wondering how our perfect evening had unraveled so quickly. The next morning, Sunday, was strained. Melanie was cool and distant, speaking to me only when necessary. Tyler, picking up on the tension again, was clingy and whiny. By lunchtime, I was exhausted from walking on eggshells in my own home. "Are we still going to your mother's for dinner tonight?" Melanie asked as she loaded the dishwasher. I hesitated. The last thing we needed was another tense family dinner. "Maybe we should skip this week. Give everyone a little space." She nodded, seeming almost relieved. "I'll call her." But when Melanie returned from making the call, her expression was thunderous. "Your mother wants to know if everything is okay. Apparently, we never miss Sunday dinner unless something is seriously wrong." "What did you tell her?" "That we're fine, just tired from our late night." Melanie slammed a cabinet door. "She probably thinks we're fighting about money again. She always assumes the worst about me." "Mel, I'm sure that's not—" "Save it, David. I'm going shopping." She grabbed her purse from the counter. "Alone." Before I could respond, she was out the door. I heard her car start and pull out of the driveway with a squeal of tires. Tyler looked up from his coloring book at the kitchen table, his little face worried. "Is Mommy mad?" I sat down beside him, forcing a smile. "Mommy's just having a rough day, buddy. She'll be back soon." "Are you and Mommy fighting again?" My heart sank. No child should have to ask that question. "No, sport. We're just having a grown-up disagreement. Nothing for you to worry about." He seemed unconvinced but returned to his coloring. I watched him, his small hand gripping the crayon with fierce concentration, and felt a wave of guilt. This wasn't the stable, happy home I'd wanted for him. Melanie didn't return until late afternoon. When she walked in, shopping bags in hand, her expression was defiant, daring me to comment. I chose not to take the bait. "Tyler and I made spaghetti for dinner," I said instead. "There's plenty if you're hungry." She set the bags down. "I already ate, but thanks." I nodded toward the bags. "Find what you were looking for?" A flash of something, guilt, defensiveness, crossed her face. "Just some things for work, and a new shirt for Tyler." I didn't push further, and the evening passed in artificial politeness. We put Tyler to bed together, reading him his favorite story and kissing him goodnight as if everything was normal. But when we closed his bedroom door, the facade dropped, and we retreated to separate corners of the house once more. It wasn't until the next day, when I was paying bills at the kitchen table, that I discovered just how far Melanie had gone in her shopping expedition. The credit card app on my phone pinged with a notification. A new charge for $6,200 at Nordstrom. She had bought the bag. I stared at my phone screen, the notification from our credit card app burning into my retinas. $6,200 at Nordstrom. The exact price of the Chanel bag Melanie had mentioned, plus tax. My hands trembled slightly as I set the phone down on the kitchen table. We had just gotten out of debt. We had just created a budget together. We had just agreed to be more responsible with our finances. And now this. I waited until that evening, after Tyler was asleep, to confront Melanie. She was in our bedroom, carefully arranging clothes in her closet when I walked in and closed the door behind me. "I saw the credit card charge," I said without preamble. She stiffened but didn't turn around. "I was going to tell you." "When? After the bill came due? After we couldn't make the payment?" Now she faced me, chin lifted in defiance. "I can make the payment. It's my commission money, David. I earned it. We have joint accounts, Melanie. Joint credit cards. Joint financial responsibilities. This isn't just about you." "I'm well aware of our financial situation," she said coldly. "I'm the one who just brought in a $30,000 commission, remember? And now more than 20% of it is gone on a handbag." I was struggling to keep my voice down. "What about the bathroom renovation? What about savings for Tyler's college fund? What about all the things we discussed?" "We can still do those things. Just not all at once." I ran a hand through my hair, exasperated. "That's not the point. The point is that we had a conversation about this specific purchase. I expressed concerns, and you went ahead and did it anyway." "Because you don't understand how important appearances are in my industry," she insisted. "This isn't just a frivolous purchase. It's an investment in my career." "Stop calling it an investment," I snapped. "It's a purse. A very expensive purse that we cannot afford." "According to whom? You? Your mother?" Melanie's eyes flashed. "I'm tired of being treated like I can't make my own financial decisions. I work hard for my money." So do I countered. "And I'm tired of watching our family finances drain away on luxury items we don't need." We glared at each other, at another impasse. Finally, I sighed heavily. "Return it," I said, trying to keep my tone reasonable. Please, Mel, take it back and we can talk about a compromise. Maybe something less expensive but still nice. She shook her head slowly. I can't return it. It was a final sale. Limited edition. The realization hit me then. She'd deliberately purchased a non-returnable item to prevent exactly what I was suggesting. My blood pressure rose another notch. So that's it? You've made this unilateral decision that affects our family finances, and I'm just supposed to accept it? I don't know what you want me to say, David. Her voice was flat now. What's done is done. I turned away, afraid I might say something I'd regret. I need some air. I grabbed my keys and jacket and left the house, driving aimlessly through the quiet streets of our neighborhood. The early spring night was cool, and I rolled down the window, letting the fresh air clear my head. How had we gotten here? This wasn't the marriage I had envisioned. Melanie and I used to be a team, making decisions together, supporting each other's dreams while keeping sight of our shared goals. Now it felt like we were adversaries, constantly at odds over money, parenting, and my mother. My mother. I couldn't help but wonder if she had been right all along about Melanie's spending habits. The thought made me uncomfortable. I hated the idea of taking sides, of acknowledging that there might be fundamental incompatibilities between the two women I loved most. Eventually, I found myself driving toward Mom's house. It was late, past 10, but I could see lights on in her living room. I hesitated, then pulled into her driveway. She answered the door in her bathrobe, surprise giving way to concern when she saw my expression. David, is everything okay? Is Tyler all right? Tyler's fine, I assured her quickly. Everyone's fine. I needed someone to talk to. She ushered me inside without further questions, leading me to the kitchen where she put on the kettle for tea, her solution to all of life's problems. Now, she said, sitting across from me at the familiar oak table. What's going on? I told her everything. The celebration dinner, the argument about the bag, Melanie buying it anyway. Mom listened without interrupting, her face carefully neutral. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment, considering her words. What do you want me to say, David? She finally asked. The question caught me off guard. I don't know. That I'm right to be upset? That Melanie was wrong to go behind my back? Would that help? Mom's voice was gentle. Would my validation make this situation any better? I blinked, surprised by her response. I guess not. Honey, I love you more than anything in this world, and I want you to be happy. But I'm not sure I'm the right person for you to be having this conversation with. What do you mean? She reached across the table and took my hand. Every time you and Melanie have a disagreement, you come to me. And every time it puts me in an impossible position. If I agree with you, I'm the interfering mother-in-law who doesn't like your wife. If I take her side, you feel betrayed. I hadn't thought of it that way before. I trust your judgment, Mom, and I'm flattered by that. But David, I'm not part of your marriage. These are issues you and Melanie need to work through together. But she won't listen to reason, I protested. She maxed out our credit card, then bought a $6,000 purse right after we got out of debt. Mom sighed. Money issues are rarely just about money, David. Have you asked yourself why Melanie feels the need to spend this way? What she's trying to prove or fill or escape from? I frowned. You're defending her? I'm suggesting that there might be more to this situation than meets the eye. Mom's expression was thoughtful. I remember when your father and I were first married. He couldn't understand why I insisted on buying new curtains for the living room when we could barely afford groceries. That's hardly the same as a $6,000 handbag. The scale is different, yes, but the underlying issue isn't. I wanted those curtains because they made me feel like I had a real home, like I was succeeding as a wife and homemaker. It wasn't about the curtains at all. I considered this. So you think Melanie's spending is about, what? Insecurity? I don't know. Only Melanie can tell you that. But people don't usually act without reason, even when their actions seem irrational to others. The kettle whistled, and Mom got up to make the tea. I sat in thoughtful silence, turning her words over in my mind. I just want what's best for Tyler, I said, as she set a steaming mug in front of me. A stable home, financial security. Of course you do. You're a wonderful father. She sat back down. But children need more than financial stability, David. They need parents who communicate, who respect each other, who model healthy relationships. And you think Melanie and I aren't doing that? Mom chose her words carefully. I think you're both under a lot of stress. I think you both love Tyler enormously. And I think you need to find a way to talk to each other without me in the middle. I sipped my tea, letting the warmth and familiar flavor of chamomile soothe me. When did you get so wise? she smiled. I've had 72 years of practice, and I made plenty of mistakes along the way, believe me. We talked a while longer, not just about Melanie, but about Tyler, about Mom's garden plans for the summer, about a book she was reading for her club. Normal, everyday things that reminded me there was more to life than financial disagreements. When I finally left, close to midnight, Mom hugged me tightly at the door. Remember, sweetheart, marriage isn't about winning arguments. It's about understanding each other, even when it's difficult. Especially when it's difficult. I nodded, grateful for her wisdom, even if it wasn't quite what I'd expected to hear. When I got home, the house was dark and quiet. Melanie was already in bed, her back to my side, breathing deeply in sleep, or pretending to be. I didn't disturb her. Whatever conversation we needed to have could wait until morning. But morning brought its own challenges. Tyler woke with a fever, clingy and miserable. Work emails demanded immediate attention. Melanie had an early showing and left before we could talk. The day slipped away in a blur of pediatrician visits, remote meetings, and chicken soup. It wasn't until the following day, with Tyler recovering and back at preschool, that Melanie and I finally had a moment alone. She was in the kitchen, preparing a client presentation, when I walked in and sat across from her at the island. "We need to talk," I said softly. She looked up, her expression guarded. "About?" "Everything. The bag, our finances, this distance between us." I took a deep breath. "I went to see my mother the other night." Melanie's face hardened. "Of course you did. Not for the reason you think," I said quickly. "I didn't go there to complain about you, or to get her to take my side. I went because I was confused and hurt and needed perspective." "And did she give you the perspective you wanted? Did she confirm that I'm an irresponsible spendthrift who's ruining our family?" "Actually, no. She suggested that I try to understand why the bag was so important to you, that there might be deeper issues at play than just the money." Melanie looked surprised, then suspicious. "Really?" "Really," I assured her. "She also said that she shouldn't be in the middle of our marriage issues, that we need to work things out between ourselves." "Huh." Melanie set down her pen. "That's, unexpectedly insightful of her. She's full of surprises." I offered a small smile, which Melanie cautiously returned. It was a tiny opening, but I seized it. "So, can we talk? Really talk?" She nodded slowly. "Okay. First, I want to apologize for how I reacted to the bag purchase. I was angry, and I didn't try to understand your perspective. Thank you for that." She seemed genuinely touched by the apology. "And I'm sorry for going behind your back after we discussed it. That wasn't fair to you." "Progress." I pressed on gently. "Can I ask, why was this particular bag so important to you? Important enough to spend that much money, knowing it would cause tension between us?" Melanie was quiet for a moment, considering the question. "It's hard to explain," she finally said. "In my world, in real estate, there's this constant pressure to project success. The right car, the right clothes, the right accessories. It's not just vanity, it's marketing. People don't trust agents who don't look successful. I understand that, but—" "No, let me finish," she interrupted. "It's more than that, though. When I carry a bag like that, I feel like I belong. Like I've made it. Like I'm not just some girl from a trailer park in Schenectady anymore." I blinked, surprised. Melanie rarely talked about her childhood. I knew her family had struggled financially, but she'd always been vague about the details. "You never told me you lived in a trailer park." She shrugged, uncomfortable. "It's not exactly something I'm proud of. We moved around a lot when I was a kid. Trailer parks, cheap apartments, staying with relatives when things got really bad. My dad left when I was 8, and my mom worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over our heads." Suddenly, so many things about Melanie made more sense. Her fixation on appearances, her defensiveness about money, her determination to give Tyler everything she hadn't had. "I had no idea it was that bad," I said softly. "I've worked really hard to leave that life behind." Her voice wavered slightly. "When I walk into a luxury store now, with my designer clothes and my real estate success, no one sees that scared little girl who wore hand-me-downs and pretended not to be hungry when there wasn't enough food. But I still feel like her sometimes. Like I'm just pretending to belong in this world." My heart ached for her. "Mel, you don't need expensive things to prove your worth. You're successful because you're smart and hardworking and determined." "Logically, I know that," she admitted. "But emotionally, it's a different story." She took a deep breath. "Your mother grew up comfortable, right? Never had to worry about money?" "Not rich by any means, but stable, yes. My grandparents were both teachers. See, that's the difference. Barbara doesn't understand what it's like to finally have access to things you've been denied your whole life. She's always had security. I never did, until I met you. It was a perspective I'd never considered before. That Melanie's spending might be rooted in childhood insecurity, rather than simple materialism. And it made me wonder if Mom's thriftiness came from a similar place of security, having never experienced the lack that Melanie had. Thank you for telling me this, I said, reaching for her hand across the island. It helps me understand better. She squeezed my hand. I know the bag was extravagant, and I know we need to be more careful with money, especially for Tyler's future. Sometimes I get caught up in proving something to myself, I guess. We'll figure it out, I promised. Together. But no more major purchases without discussing them first, okay? For both of us. Deal, she agreed. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a start. A genuine conversation that went beyond surface accusations to the heart of our differences. For the first time in weeks, I felt hopeful about our marriage. That Sunday, we went to Mom's for dinner as usual. The atmosphere was noticeably lighter, the conversation easier. Melanie even complimented Mom on her new curtains, a small gesture that didn't go unnoticed. After dinner, while Melanie was helping Tyler build a Lego dinosaur in the living room, Mom pulled me into the kitchen under the pretense of needing help with dessert. Things seem better between you two, she observed, cutting slices of apple pie. We had a good talk, I confirmed. Really talked. Maybe for the first time in years. You were right about looking deeper than the surface issues. She smiled, pleased. I'm glad to hear it. I wanted to thank you, Mom, for your advice the other night. It wasn't what I expected to hear, but it was what I needed. That's what mothers are for, she said simply, handing me plates to carry. Even when our children are all grown up with children of their own. As we brought dessert into the dining room, I watched Melanie laughing with Tyler, her face relaxed and happy. Whatever challenges we still faced, and there would be many, I had no doubt. At least we were facing them with honesty now. The peace lasted almost 2 weeks. Melanie stuck to our budget. I made more effort to understand her career pressures, and we both prioritized quality time with Tyler. Even the weather seemed to cooperate, with sunny spring days perfect for family outings to the park and zoo. Then came the phone call that shattered our fragile equilibrium. I was at work when my cell phone rang, Mom's number flashing on the screen. Hey Mom, I answered, balancing the phone between my ear and shoulder as I typed an email. David. Her voice was tight, controlled. I need you to come over after work. Is everything okay? We need to talk, in person. An icy dread settled in my stomach. Mom, you're scaring me. What's going on? A brief pause. It's about Melanie's credit card use. What? I was completely confused. Mom, we resolved that issue. She's been sticking to our budget. What are you talking about? Not your credit card. Mine. My mind raced, trying to make sense of her words. But you canceled her card months ago. She doesn't have access to your account anymore. Apparently she does. Mom's voice was eerily calm. I received a statement yesterday showing over $12,000 in charges from the past month. Charges I didn't make. That's impossible, I said, feeling sick. There must be some mistake. The charges are from stores Melanie frequents. Nordstrom, Saks, that spa in Saratoga. And when I called the credit card company, they confirmed that a card was issued to Melanie Wilson in February. A card I never authorized. My hands went cold. I don't understand. How could she? Identity theft, David. She used my personal information to add herself back to my account without my knowledge or consent. The room seemed to tilt around me. This couldn't be happening. Melanie wouldn't do something so reckless, so potentially criminal. There has to be another explanation. I wish there were. Mom sounded sad now, rather than angry. I've already spoken with the credit card company. They're investigating it as fraud. I haven't decided yet whether to press charges. Press charges? I echoed, horrified. Mom, you can't be serious. This is Melanie we're talking about. Your daughter-in-law. Tyler's mother. I'm well aware of who she is, Mom replied, her voice hardening slightly. Which makes this betrayal all the more painful. I welcomed her into our family, David. I tried to help when you were in financial trouble. And this is how she repays that trust? I couldn't argue with her logic, but the implications were devastating. If Mom pursued this legally, Melanie could face serious consequences, even jail time. Our family would be torn apart. Tyler would be the one to suffer most. Please, Mom, I begged. Let me talk to her first. Let me try to figure this out before you do anything drastic. A long pause. All right, she finally agreed. Talk to her. But David, this isn't something I can just overlook. $12,000 is a significant amount of money even for me. I understand. Thank you for giving me a chance to handle this. I'll come by after work. I hung up, my mind reeling. How could Melanie have done something so foolish, so potentially destructive? And how could I have been so blind to what was happening right under my nose? The rest of the workday passed in a blur of anxiety and dread. I couldn't focus on anything, my thoughts constantly circling back to the impossible situation awaiting me at home. By the time I left the office, my stomach was in knots, and a stress headache pounded behind my eyes. I drove to Mom's house first, as promised. She showed me the credit card statement, and there was no denying the evidence. Charge after charge for clothing, shoes, spa treatments, and even a weekend getaway to a resort in the Adirondacks I knew nothing about. All in Melanie's name, all on my mother's account. I don't know what to say, Mom, I admitted, feeling hollowed out. I had no idea this was happening. I believe you, she said, and I was grateful for at least that small mercy. But it doesn't change the facts. Melanie has committed fraud, David. This isn't just about money anymore. It's about trust, respect, and basic decency. I know. I rubbed my face, exhausted. What do you want me to do? Mom considered for a moment. Talk to her. See if she'll admit to what she's done and agree to repay the money. If she does, I won't involve the authorities. And if she doesn't, then I'll have no choice but to report the fraud officially. I'm sorry, David, but actions have consequences. Even for family. I nodded, knowing she was right, but dreading the confrontation ahead. I'll let you know what happens. The drive home felt like heading to an execution. How had our lives unraveled so completely in just a few months? From a happy family planning a child's birthday party to the brink of criminal charges and family destruction. When I pulled into our driveway, I saw Melanie's car already there. Through the front window, I could see her in the living room, showing something to Tyler. Probably one of her new purchases, bought with stolen credit. The sight, once heartwarming, now filled me with a complicated mix of love, disappointment, and resolve. It was time for the hardest conversation of my life. Time to decide what kind of man, husband, and father I wanted to be. Time to finally put my family first. All of my family, including the mother who had sacrificed so much for me, and who deserved far better than what Melanie had done to her. If you enjoyed my story, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to join our community of storytellers. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one and can't wait to hear what you think.